Hi guys, this is Naomi here, and today I wanted to make a quick video about the difference between the sun sign and the rising sign slash ascendant sign, because the rising sign and the ascendant sign is the same thing, they just have different names. But this is a question comes up pretty often from people who are either brand new to astrology or people who already know astrology a little bit and they learn about their sun sign and they understand it and they can resonate with it, but then they learn about their rising sign. And so the question is often is which one is more important, which one should I listen, which one is more accurate, which one is better. And yeah, I just thought in this short video today I'm going to unpack this topic because I really believe that once you understand your rising sign, once you learn about your rising sign, that is really a game changer when it comes to your astrological journey or astrological knowledge. Because knowing your sun sign is one thing, and knowing your rising sign is, again, it's a whole new thing. And both of them are equally important. This is the question usually, like, which one is more important? I would say both of them are equally important because both of them talk about you. It's just they talking about a different part of your astrological makeup. They are just two pieces of the same larger picture or big puzzle, which is the puzzle of you. So, by the way, thank you for watching this video. My name is Naomi, and this is actually the very first astrological video on this channel. So, thank you for being here. And yeah, let's just dive into it. So, what is the sun sign? What does the sun sign represent? So, you most likely know that you most likely know your own sun sign. You probably wouldn't be here if you didn't. But the sun sign is really determined of the time of the year you were born, because it depends on the month you were born. When is your birthday? That determine your zodiac sign, because we have 12 months in a year and we got 12 zodiac signs. So the zodiac signs, or I would say the sun changes zodiac signs every 30 days. So for instance, if you were born, in the middle of February or sometimes, mid-February, you are an Aquarius. If you were born very late May and, all the way until mid-June, then you are Gemini. If you were born in, December, around Christmas, then you are a Capricorn. And so again, I don't have to talk about this more because you obviously know your own sun sign. But having the sun sign, covering a 30-day period means that you actually sharing your sun sign with hundreds of thousands and millions of people across the globe. Now, does that mean that all these people have exactly the same personality as you have? Obviously not. And you probably know someone, you have a friend or know someone who has the same, sun sign, sharing your sun sign, and you understand that they are different. And so um, I will talk about why why they can be different, because again that has a lot to do with your rising sign. But let's just stick with the sun sign. So what does the sun sign really represent in our chart and in our life? Well, the sun is, most importantly, is our sense of self, like who we really are, who we think, who we feel, who we believe that we are on a deeper level. That is represented by our sun sign and, the sun position in that particular zodiac sign. The sun also represents our identity, our well-being, our physical strength, like the physical well-being and overall vitality. it's the life force we have. So again, that is represented, the life force is represented by the sun sign. The other thing is represented by the sun sign is our father and father figure. And again, this is something maybe new to people, but your father, it can be your biological father or people who are, like father figures to you in your life. That is represented again by your sun sign. And so again, even though you share your sun sign with so many other people, but at the same time, it really talks about your inner self, like who you are again on a deeper level, definitely deeper than your rising sign. The sun sign also talks about our motivations, like what motivates us, what lights you up. Because when you think about the sun, just look at the universe. You look at the sun, and the sun is the one that gives us heat, light, and vitality. So this is the same in your chart. It gives you heat, light, and vitality, and so it brings warmth and light into that particular area. So again, whatever is your zodiac sign, whatever is your sun sign, it usually comes to the forefront because the sun is sitting there. And again, that is who you are. So represented by the sun and by that particular zodiac sign. So again, this is really important, even though it's just one piece of the big puzzle of your astrological makeup, yet it is still hugely important to understand your sun sign. Let me just see, I just have a note and just gonna see if I forget anything. I'm sure I did, but again, this is just a short video to understand your sun sign. Now, what about your rising sign? What is the rising sign or the ascendant sign? Like I said, they are the same thing. So the rising sign is actually the sign that was risen on the eastern horizon at the very moment that you were born. The moment that you slipped into this reality, it is the moment you slipped into this reality, and the sign that was risen on the eastern horizon, that is your rising sign. So again, that is determined not just by the time of your birth, the exact time of your birth, but also the location of your birth. And so it's worth to know that the rising sign changes every 2 hours. Like, the sun sign changes every 30 days, but the rising sign changes every 2 hours. So what does it tell us? It tells us that it is a lot more personal. It is a lot more, it is a lot more specific to you to have a certain rising sign. So what is the rising sign really represent? Well, many things, but one of the most important probably is that the rising sign is the first impression you give to the world. This is the sign through which the world perceives you and you perceive the world. So it's like having pretty much like a filter through your entire existence and going through life, through that, seeing life and interacting with life and people and everything and everyone around you, you interact through that particular rising sign. So again, that is very, very important, because even though some people like to call it as the rising sign being a mask we wear, I don't really think it's accurate, because it's not something that you pick and choose and you put on this rising sign and you're like, okay, from now on I'm going to act like I don't know, like a Piscean or I don't know, a Leo. You cannot choose your rising sign. It was determined at the time and the place where you were born. So again, this is very particular to you. But the reason people call it as a mask, because the rising sign coming to, you acting through your rising sign in the social environment. So this is your public persona. This is your, this is your big personality. This is how people see you. But especially the people who you interact with on a daily basis, but they're not really close to you. So let's say you go to the supermarket and you talk to the lady there, or you buy your coffee in the local, your local place, or you go to the gym and interact with your gym buddies. So that's when we really have and being seen by our rising sign. And that's why people think it's a mask. It's not a mask. It's just, it is very active when we have these social interactions. Okay? Whereas the sun sign is more about your deeper self, and you're figuring out who you are, your identity. Again, it's your key motivator in life, like your sun sign. Whereas the rising sign is more like, the bubbly personality. Even if you don't have bubbly personality, again, how people see you and what people think of you when they meet you the first time. What they see, what they represented with is your rising sign. So when you meet someone at the first time, you don't show your sun sign to them straight away. You're actually acting through your rising sign. So I wouldn't say it is, superficial, but this is still the most outer layer of your personality. And so that's why people sometimes call it, oh, it's superficial. It's not superficial. It's still a huge part of who you are. And you can't act any other way, even if you wanted to. But it's just more like, again, it's your public persona, how people see you. Even your style, like what kind of style you have, is in one way or the other is determined by your rising sign. Yeah, sure, Venus, has a lot to do with it, what you like and dislike. But when it comes to your personal style, what you like to wear, again, how you present yourself to others, it is determined by your rising sign. Now, one more thing to know, that the rising sign is more dominant, it is more dominant when we are younger. So in our, early childhood, but even in our teenage years and in our mid-20s, early 20s, the rising sign tend to be more dominant. And again, it just comes back to the same thing. We talked about it, that the sun sign is your identity, it's your ego, it's your sense of self. And so that is not something we figure out usually early on in life. Usually we spend years and sometimes decades really figuring out who we are. And so that's why by default we act out through our rising sign. And then later on, when we're figuring out who we are and what really our priorities are, that's when we start to resonate more and more with our sun sign. But it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that at one point you're going to lose your rising sign, because you won't. Again, this is, you can't separate the two, one from the other, because it's always going to be part of you. But maybe as you go through life, it's going to become somewhat less relevant for you. Okay, let me see. I'm just gonna check my notes if I forgot anything. Yeah, one more thing it's important to mention, just to highlight how important is your rising sign, even though you think it's more like a superficial thing, which is, again, it's not, is that when we look at your birth chart, or when we have your birth chart, the birth chart, your actual birth chart, is set up by your rising sign, because the rising sign sets up your first house in your birth chart, and so it sets up the rest of the houses. It sets up your entire birth chart. Now, maybe that didn't make any sense to you, but what's important to remember, that when you read even your horoscope, it is more accurate when you read it through your rising sign rather reading through your sun sign. Again, because it is the actual rising sign that determines what your chart looks like and the placement in your chart, and that determines where all these other planets like Venus, Mars, Saturn, etc., all the planets sit in your birth chart. So again, hugely important to know your rising sign. Okay, so and if you're wondering which one should you read or which one should you spend more time, I think when it comes to listening your weekly forecast or monthly forecast, it is usually way more accurate when you listen for your rising sign than your sun sign. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. Again, I'm sure I forgot a few things to mention, but I think it gives you an overall picture of the main difference between the sun sign and the rising sign. If you have anything to add to the video, or if you just want to share what is your particular rising sign, please just put it into the comment section. If you have any question, again, put it in the comment section and I would be happy to answer. And from now on, I'm planning to make more videos again on astrological topics to understand yourself better through the lens of astrology. And if you would like to see more videos, please give a thumbs up for this video, and also consider to subscribe to the channel, because the more people subscribe, the more this channel will grow. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao!